Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dudes and dudettes, the sexy and the not so sexy, big children and little. I am the novelist, author, poet, Lamont Anthony Wright, aka Graffiti Blue. Welcome. I normally only throw on a button up for the Let's Think This Through podcast, but because I'm in the midst of rolling out an album, I have not done an episode of Let's Think This Through in quite some time. So I'll get back in my journalistic research bag in a minute. But I really wanted to talk to you guys about sacrifice. I'm inspired. Was under the weather, so really wasn't rocking with anybody outside of God and a close friend. Okay, I really wasn't rocking with anybody like that. You know, sometimes we got to go inside, right? You know, and sometimes we just got to turn the freaking camera off and turn life off and do what we got to do. Speaking of doing what we got to do, what are you prepared to do? What are you prepared to do? Hashtag motivation, hashtag sacrifice. It's really about sacrifice, but what I get the what are you prepared to do thing from, I really am taking that from, I'm a big movie guy. And I'm taking this this quote from one of my favorite movies is the Untouchables with Robert De Niro, Andy Garcia, Sean Connery, Kevin Costner, story of Al Capone, basically called The Untouchables. And in it, Sean Connery actually gets murdered. Sean Connery gets murdered by one of Al Capone's henchmen. I think it was it Frank? Who was his henchman? And anyway, his henchman shoots Sean Connery, and Sean Connery tells Kevin Costner, he repeats a trope that was in the movie before. He was just like, you know, he was telling Elliot Ness, Kevin Costner's character chasing down Al Capone was Elliot Ness, right? And Sean Connery was the beat cop, and he was telling Elliot Ness, Kevin Costner, he kept asking him, what are you prepared to do? And Kevin Costner was just like, I want to get Capone. I want to get him. I don't know how to get him. He was just like, I know you want to arrest him, but what are you prepared to do? Because if you're going to go for these guys, you're going to have to go all the way. And then he was like, well, I don't know what that means. So I'm paraphrasing here. He said, you want to know how to get Capone? I'll tell you how to get him. He pulls a knife, you pull a gun. He sends one of yours to the hospital, you send one of his to the morgue. That's the Chicago way. Let's spin the block on that. He said, what are you prepared to do? What are you prepared to do? Because if you want to go after these guys, if you want to go after the great Al Capone, you're going to have to go all the way. You're going to have to go all the way. He pulls a knife, you pull a gun. He sends one of yours to the hospital, you send one of his to the morgue. That's the Chicago way. Let's pause here. And since we're talking about Sean Connery, I'm gonna have to we're gonna have to smoke and talk about this one. That's a blowtorch. You like that? You like that? Let's light a stogie and talk about this one. Let's start by saying, first of all, not everybody's motivated. Let's also talk about how, especially with men, I don't know how it is with you ladies out there, for the ladies who fuck with me, and there are bunch of ladies that rock with me, because let's not forget I write romance. But I don't know how it is with you ladies. But I know in men's circles, let's say if there are a bunch of men at a table talking about taking over the world, then every man at that table will also join in the conversation about taking over the world, or how to do it, or what they would do once the world is taken over. It does not necessarily mean that every man at that table is interested in taking over the world. And it certainly doesn't mean that every man at that table has the motivation, drive, and ingenuity to actually take over the effing world. It took me a long time to figure this out, because I'm a motivated guy. So I love to talk about what needs to be done, what I want to do, what should be done, what could be done, and if it was done, how it possibly could pan out. But just because you have a whole bunch of cats at a table joining in the conversation with you does not necessarily mean that those cats are necessarily motivated. Let's spin the block. What are you prepared to do? Oh, hashtag sacrifice. I want to be one of the baddest lyricists that ever performed in the spoken word / MC / literary arts. I want to be one of the most profound writers the world has ever seen. I want, when I am dead and gone and dust and bones and a part of the earth and stone, I want my art to be milled over in college courses. I want a college course that just talks about what the hell, where kids that aren't even born yet are talking about what kind of metaphor or use of metaphor was I using when I wrote chapter 3 of a book I haven't even written yet. Follow what I'm saying? So when I wrap my head around this, what am I prepared to do? My mind draws a conclusion that it would probably take a lot of man hours to become that badass. Because at some point, you're going to need more than your God-given talent, your God-given IQ, your current level of street wisdom that you pertain right now. At some point, you're going to have to do something that someone else probably isn't doing. You're probably going to have to step way outside of your comfort zone to get this done. You're probably going to have to do something that does not necessarily make you very comfortable. It's not like you don't have to sell your soul to the devil, but you're going to have to miss out on something. You're going to have to be prepared to give something up, maybe sacrifice something, maybe. What if, in my case, what if it meant practicing 3 hours a day? I'm prepared to do that. And I do shit like that, especially about 2 months before a big show or something like that, where I'll practice about an hour and a half in a day, and then I'll practice another hour and a half before I go to sleep. That's just how I give it up. What are you prepared to do? Is that a sacrifice? Is it really a sacrifice? I mean, it is a sacrifice on some level, But we'll spin the block and talk about how a lot of things we think is this sacrifice. Like sacrifice is kind of this hard thing where we're really giving up food, water, and air. Okay. And when we sacrifice, what we gain on the other side is so crazy. It's just freaking dope. What are you prepared to do? I want to write one of the best books ever written. I want this book again, this book that I wrote, for example, to be milled over in college courses and talked about. I want this book in book clubs. I want this book to be on the New York Times bestseller list and all of the accolades that come with that. I want this book to be made into a movie where the movie is just as good as the book was, or as the book is, where critics of the literary world and the Hollywood Screen Actors Guild agree. Like, man, the book is the shit, and the freaking movie is also the you follow what I'm saying? What are you prepared to do? What kind of sacrifice would that take? You see the movies when guys and girls want to focus on their book. What are they typically doing? They're driving to some remote location. They're locking themselves in a cabin or something to that effect in a rural area, right? And they're gone for like, I don't know, 6 months, 9 months, a year and a half, whatever it takes. But when they come from Boise, Idaho, when they walk down from the mountaintop after they've been gone in freaking Tibet or the Himalayas or whatever the hell it was at, and they are carrying like the most badass piece of literary art you have ever freaking laid eyes on, they did it. It was gone. They gave up a lot of things. They wasn't with the people they love, maybe. They weren't doing things that lovers do, right? They weren't enjoying some of the things we enjoy. They weren't on the gram, you know. They weren't Netflix and chilling, you know. They weren't binge watching their favorite show. Well, we got to be prepared to do something else. I know many talented people, and I always like to talk to artists and to keep it a stack with you. People, not many people. I don't necessarily appeal to many people because I don't crank out a lot of content on schedule. I don't reiterate the same things. I'm not necessarily appealing to one specific slice of people who just rock with me like that. I just give you my random art, random whatever, my art and things of that nature, music, books, whatever, spoken word, whatever. You know, we'll mess with that in the tens of thousands and all that. But in all reality, it might be anywhere from 18 to 1,000 people that watch this live, maybe, and that's cool. Okay, because I am not prepared to compromise my sanity and my artistic vision for popularity. I am not prepared to be a slave to the public where I'm just like, okay, let me find out what y'all like and only talk about that. As an artist, I would lose myself in that type of shit. So all I can say is, this is who I am. This is what I represent. This is my catalog. This is my body of work. If you want to know the man behind the art, if you want to know the MC behind the raps, if you want to know the poet behind the freaking metaphors, and all of that stuff, if you want to know who created all of those characters in the Poet's Pursuit of Pleasure series, then maybe this is for you. But if not, that's okay. What I am prepared to do for the faithful few who fuck with it is to be just like, okay, I can be honest, I can be transparent, I can be consistent, right? And I could give the people what I feel they may enjoy, but there is really no way of knowing for sure. But there was a certain amount of work and sacrifice that you have to do to get a result that comes here. Now, to really understand where I'm coming from is we would really have to let go of a lot of ego. Man, oh man, oh man. Let's talk about the ego for just maybe about 3 minutes. I'm gonna wrap this up in about 5 minutes. Just stay with me. In those conversations, again, I can only speak for circles of men because I'm not really in circles of women. Okay, all right. Shout out to the ladies. I love talking to women though. Women are fascinating just to conversate with them, not trying to sleep with them or not trying to get anything from them, but just listening to how they interpret their world and translate it to you. That is such a great joy for me to just listen to, because they think in a way that I'm just like, man, I would have never looked at life like that. Is that how you feel? Really? It's just amazing. The yin to the yang. Anyway, I like balance, people. But when I'm in those circles of men, and those men are talking about taking over the world or other highly intellectual, conceptual thoughts to that effect, many motivated men, like I said at the top, many non-motivated men will join in that conversation just because the conversation is taking place. Does not mean that they are inspired, motivated, or talented enough to do what the fuck they said they want to do. So for all of my motivated brothers and sisters out there who are motivated, beware and just know you are in the minority. A lot of people out here are talking about how motivated they are, and they are not motivated. They are happy to breathe in and out. They are only talking about doing the right thing or doing anything at all because you're talking about it and it sounds like the right thing to do. Everybody has that one person in their family that talks a great fucking game, but they ain't about that life at all. Okay? Ego. I don't want to be left out of this conversation. I know this is a smart conversation to have. Ego. But my ego won't bow down. My ego won't be just like, you know what? Fuck all that. I'm just trying to lay on the couch. Fuck your desires, Negro. The hell with your sense of purpose. Pass the Heineken. Who's saying that? Who's saying that? You see it all the time. You see it all the time. We all know these people that talk such a good game. But when it's go time, there's a lot of standing still.